How has evolution affected education? Well, most students, when they go through a public education system in the United States, most of them are taught that evolution is a scientific fact, that life has evolved from lower organisms and so on, going all the way back to a single-celled organism all over millions of years and by accident. Now, a lot of people think when they send their students to public schools that they're going to get a neutral and balanced education. After all, it is a public school. You'd expect it to be neutral. But education, by its very nature, cannot be neutral. And when students are taught that evolution is true, they're being taught a particular worldview, a worldview that is the basis for atheistic or naturalistic thinking. They're being taught that the Bible is wrong. They're being taught that the Bible's history is not true, and that does have an effect on the way they think about things. Some students act out in very violent ways. Well, it's not really surprising if you teach a child that you're nothing more than rearranged pond scum, you're just an animal that evolved from the slime. It's not surprising that they would tend to act on that. And so we've seen an increase in school violence and other things. And again, I'm not saying that evolution is the cause, but it certainly has fueled the flames. It's very important, therefore, that Christians train their children properly to be able to answer these questions and to show them that biblical creation is true, biblical creation is confirmed by science, and for that matter, all education really ought to be based on the Christian worldview. What, after all, is the purpose of education? Many people think, well, it's just so you can get a job later in life, but that's not really the purpose of it. You see, the Bible tells us that we're to pattern our thoughts after God. In Isaiah chapter 55, God calls the wicked person out to repent because he's not thinking the way that God thinks, and his ways are not like God's ways. You see, the whole purpose of education is to learn to think in a way that is consistent with the character of God, to take captive every thought into obedience to Christ. Now, evolution and other secular ideas have had a very negative effect on our culture. The fact is, if the universe is just random chance, then why bother doing anything whatsoever? After all, if we're just rearranged pond scum, nothing really matters. On the other hand, if we're made in the image of God and we're going to answer to that God for actions, then our actions certainly matter. We've found that when you teach kids creation and you teach them that they're made by God, they're designed by God, it has a very powerful positive influence in their life. Not only are they being taught truth, but they understand their value as having been made in the image of God. They understand that they're responsible for their actions. They understand that they can't hurt other people unnecessarily. They can't just go out and murder somebody they don't like because that person is made in the image of God. Indeed, if you want Christian morality, you need to teach your students biblical creation.